Alright, so to add a new stone circle to your scene, you'll go up to Tools, Stone Circle Generator, and New Stone Circle. It's going to plop a stone circle in the center of the scene view camera, and on the right you have all of your options for building out your stone circles. Up here we have some global options. You can rotate the circle. You can enable snap to terrain, and that's going to snap the endpoints to the surface of the terrain. And you also have a height offset where you can offset the height of all of your stones if you wanted to bury the stones in the ground more than what they are, for example. You also have some advanced options here. You can enable hide colliding objects, and what that will do is it's going to hide objects that the endpoints collide with. If you want the endpoints to be hidden rather than the objects, you can check that and it will just kind of flip that. Alright, so move this back over here. Now below that you can add a center object, and that's just going to plop in a random centerpiece from your samples directory, which is located down here. You have center types and a folder samples. You can add additional folders and populate those folders with your own prefabs, and it will pull from those directories, or rather this drop down will update and you can select those directories. So one thing to keep in mind is that most everything is generated with random values, so it randomly pulls objects from your stone types, centerpieces, etc. You'll have different ranges and adjustments, and it'll pull random values from those ranges that we'll see in just a minute. Okay, so you can override your centerpiece here. Let's say we wanted something different here. Let's see, this here maybe. It's going to overwrite that with whatever prefab you drop in there, and you can see it's kind of floating off the surface here, so we can adjust the offset if you want that buried more in the ground, or you can just move the center. Yeah, there you go. And alright, so ignore terrain offset. That's just going to ignore the adjustments that it makes for the terrain. So it's already making an adjustment because this is enabled. If you want that, you'll see that in the stone circles in just a minute, but we'll turn that off. Alright, so down with your rings, you use this here to add multiple rings. You can add as many rings as you want. We'll just remove that for now. Alright, so you have adjustments here, number of endpoints. You can pull that out. The radius, you can adjust the radius of the circle here. You can override these two settings. Let's say you want something like 100 endpoints and maybe 80 radius. And then there you go. So you can see that it's still adjusting to the surface of the terrain. Alright, so we'll get back here. We'll turn that off. Alright, so you can see that it's removed some stones there, so let's pull that back. Alright, so you have entrance gap size. So what this will do is it uses a percentage to remove stones so you can create a entrance. Alright, so orientation and offset, you can offset each individual ring. You can use your same ignore terrain offset setting here, and this is might be useful if you want to use prefabs that are maybe particle emitters or some sort of effect that you want hovering above the stone circle. You can use that so it doesn't make the height offsets. Alright, so actually we'll just put that back down there. Alright, so and you can rotate each individual ring. Okay, so, and you can also override, let's say, just drop a prefab in there and it'll override that setting, so we'll just delete that for now. Let's see, so now where the kind of the real power comes in here is the randomization option. So randomized stone rotations, that's going to rotate each stone on its y-axis. And all of these settings are based on a random percentage between, or a random value between the range that you set here. So that's why you'll see things kind of dance around a little bit, because every time you make a change, it's going to update the endpoints. So we'll collapse that down a little bit, and this is to make things more natural looking. All right, so randomize tilt and lean. That's going to simulate kind of stones leaning over time. Now, randomize stone placement. Let's see. I'm going to expand that out a little bit so it's easier to see. And stone placement is going to adjust the distance between each stone. And so you can see some stones are closer together than others. All right, so randomize stone distance is going to use a percentage, and it's going to randomize the distance from the center of each stone. So if you kind of blow some of these values out, you end up with a cluster of stones. Now, let's see, I'm going to collapse this down. There we go, and we'll add more stones here. I'll close that up a little bit. All right, so randomize stone scale, that just randomizes the scale of the stone. You can keep proportion. Let's see. Now, randomize stone gaps. This is going to randomly hide stones in your circle. And what you can do is replace gaps with rubble. And so all this is going to do is just replace those gaps with a different random prefab from one of your directories. You can use the rebel directory, and it will place some different rocks and stuff. So saving and loading, you can save this as a preset, and if we do that, it's going to put it in our saved presets folder. It's going to plop it down right there. It's just a JSON file that you can edit the text if you need to, but you shouldn't have to do that. And let's see, so we'll just put this preset back in, and there you go. It generates another ring based on your parameters. You can also save it as a prefab, so we'll do that. It puts that in the saved prefabs directory, so we can turn that off, and then we can just plop that back in there, and there you go. One last thing, delete this, is when you save as a prefab, save position and rotation is checked. This is only for prefabs. What that will do is that will save the position of the stone and the rotation. If you don't have that checked and you save it as a prefab and drag it into your scene, it's going to place it at 0, 0, 0 location. All right. Okay, and that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching, and I hope you find it useful.